From the shadowy forests of the Ozarks to the forgotten hollers tucked deep in the heart of Arkansas, the strange has always had a way of finding the quiet places. But these stories, they don't just live in the past. They echo, they linger, and sometimes they return louder than ever. This is the Supernatural Roundtable, a place for stories, for questions, and for those who walk the line between the known and the unknown. Tonight, your hosts are Craig and Richard, believers, chasers of truth, and men who've heard just enough to know there's more out there than meets the eye. They aren't here to convince you, just to share what's been seen, and maybe what's still watching from the tree line. So pull up a chair. The night's just getting started, and your seat's been waiting.
All right, thank you for joining us on the Supernatural Roundtable. We got a slightly different one. We're usually up to our necks in cryptids and weird creatures and all like that, but we've done one haunted prison the entire time on this channel. We haven't done a lot of ghosts. But today we're coming at you with West Virginia State Penitentiary, also known as Moundsville, which is one of the most haunted penitentiaries long since disused in the United States. So,
yeah, and of course it operated from 1866 to 1995, and of course they made it Gothic style. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, I've seen pictures which I'm going to post in this episode that are they're wild looking.
And the way that they made this, this prison was complete with turrets and battlements. The walls, oh my gosh, the front walls were 24 feet high.
Yeah, and the prison walls themselves, I believe, were up to 5 feet thick.
Yes, and some, the front wall was 6 feet wide at the base, but it tapered off to 18 inches towards the top.
Yeah.
But still, my gosh, this was a heck of a place, and you talk about some dark history.
Yeah, it's it's a really weird they went with that kind of style of architecture. I wonder if it was to strike fear into the inmates, maybe.
Boy, that's a good question. It makes you wonder. Tell you the truth.
Yeah, it really does.
And of course, the violent history. Oh my gosh, there is, you know, well, right here it says 36 homicides took place in the prison. One of the more notable ones is the butchering of R.D. Wall, inmate number 44670, on October 8th, 1929, after snitching on his fellow inmates. He was attacked while heading to the boiler room by three prisoners using dull shivs.
Dull.
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 That's kind of brutal.
Jesus. Yeah. And we're not just getting into this because it does have a dark history, yes, but it also has a paranormal history too, with paranormal sightings even being spoken of in the early 1920s, from what I could find on it.
Yeah, and of course, it had some famous ghosts. The Shadow Man, Lady in White, the Faceless Man.
Mm-hmm.
Them are some more of the notable ghosts and ghosts that have been seen there.
Yeah. Well, I think we should really start with the prison's beginning. West Virginia, those of us that know our history, West Virginia came about when it seceded itself from Virginia, because Virginia seceded from the Union during the start of the Civil War. And one immediate problem with that was no state prisons. They didn't have a prison to send prisoners to at that point. So they decided to build one. So they were also trying to send people to out of state penitentiaries, but escapes, were mounting. After 9 inmates busted loose in 1865, public outcry forced officials to act, and on February 7, 1866, legislation approved a penitentiary at Moundsville, a town named for a huge Native American burial mound looming nearby. The state bought 10 acres just outside of town for $3,000, which was a lot of money back then,
Yeah, no doubt about it.
but it's also right next to an Indian burial ground on top of everything else.
And you know what? I mean, this prison, it could have functioned as a town. I mean,
It's
you know,
huge.
it had a blacksmith, a tailor, a bakery, a hospital, a stone yard, a brick yard. A paint shop, carpentry shop. I mean, it had everything. They used that to their advantage, and it helped save the state itself. An estimated $14,000 a year.
Which back then would have been a lot of money.
Yes, yes.
I don't know what that would be in calculated terminology today, but
No telling about that.
anyway, work began quickly. That summer, convicts housed in temporary log stockades tooled to build their prison. Officials modeled the design on the Joliet prison in Illinois, a grim neo-Gothic edifice meant to inspire dread. Which, you take one look at this place, it inspires some dread too. I'd be nervous to walk through the doors at night. It just has that architecture.
Yes, it definitely does.
As one early description put it, the Gothic architecture should convey to the mind a cheerless blank indicative of the misery which awaits the unhappy being who enters within its walls. Jesus. And indeed, the structure that rose in Moundsville was foreboding. A parallelogram shaped complex enclosed by 24, as you said, 24-foot stone walls.
Yeah, it's just incredible. I mean, it had everything that you could think of, and there was even some notable prisoners there, like I can't remember the name, but it was someone that was associated with Bonnie and Clyde. And there was uh, some more famous ones. I lost track of where I was.
Good one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, and here's something interesting that I did find though. Believe it or not, Charles Manson requested to transfer to this prison.
The state denied his request.
Yeah, can you believe that?
I I think he had some of his members there or something like that.
I don't know, but I mean, why would he want to go to a prison like that?
Well, look at Charles Manson and look at that structure and tell me why.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
But I mean, the history alone, you had the prison break of 1979, where 15 prisoners escaped. One of the prisoners, Ronald Turney Williams, serving time for murdering Sergeant David Lilly of the Beckley Police Department in 75. He managed to steal a prison guard service weapon in the escape. And upon reaching the streets of Moundsville, encountered 23-year-old off-duty West Virginia State Trooper Philip Kesner, who was driving past the prisoner with his wife. Troopers saw the escapees and attempted to take action against them, but the prisoners pulled him from his car and William shot him.
Hmm. So,
Kesner returned fire at the fleeing suspects despite being mortally wounded. But they said Williams remained at large for 18 months after that.
yeah, I read that too.
And then, you go on to the 1986 riot. You know, it was a famous, it was a infamous riot in the history of the penitentiary. It was undergoing many changes and problems. Security had become extremely thin in all areas. Bad plumbing, insects, spreading diseases. And the prison was holding more than 2,000 men crowding. It was a bad issue back then.
And considering it started out with 256 of the original that helped build the place in the 1800s.
And the what started it all, 20 inmates known as a group called the Avengers. Can you believe that?
Jesus.
Stormed the mess hall where Captain Glassrock and others were on duty. Within seconds, he and 5 other officers and a food service worker were tackled, slammed to the floor. Inmates put knives to their throats and handcuffed them with their own handcuffs. Although several hostages were taken throughout the day, none of them were seriously injured. However, over the course of the 2 day upheaval, 3 inmates were killed for an assortment of reasons. The inmates who initiated the riot were not prepared to take charge of it. Danny Lehman, the Avengers president, was quickly agreed upon as the best suited for the task for negotiating with authorities and presenting the demands to the media. Yet Lehman was not part of the 20 men who began the riot. Governor Arch A. Moore Jr. went to the penitentiary to talk with the inmates, and it set up a new list of rules and standards for the prison. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, here's the crazy aspect of it. We're talking about the later history of it. The earlier history in the 1900s, it almost kind of came across as, I wouldn't say a great place to be, not at all, because who wants to be in prison? Because it was, like we talked about earlier, it was a self-sufficient city for the convicts in a way. With,
Right.
yeah, with dozens of trade, carpentry, blacksmith, all that. Education at that point was encouraged. Inmates could attend classes and get a degree. There was a schoolhouse with a library built in the 1900s inside the walls, and there was a sense, perhaps fleeting, that rehabilitation was possible even in these stone confines. Because they were even making their own clothes, the quality of the clothes were better. But by the 20th century, optimism gave way to the overcrowding and bloodshed, like we were talking about. More men were sent to Moundsville, and the small 5x7 cells designed for one now held 3 at a time. 2 jammed onto bunk beds, and a third sleeping on the floor. By 1929, the state rushed to expand the prison, doubling its capacity by expanding the prison labor construction. Through steel shortages and delays, it didn't get completed until 1959. It was that overcrowded for that long.
Yeah. That's a long time. And then you take, all the, you know, they talk about, bugs and diseases that was being spread around and everything else, I mean, that that could make a lot of problems.
Yeah. I mean, despite being expanded, crowding and deteriorating conditions persisted. The penitentiary's atmosphere grew meaner each year, earning a spot on the U.S. Department of Justice's top 10 most violent prisons list by the mid-century. Yeah. So,
Well, not only that, you had a bunch of executions. I mean, from 1899 to 1959, 94 men were executed at this prison. You
that's a
know,
lot.
yeah, and then of course, at the beginning, hanging was the preferred method, the main method. Back in those early times, and one man, Frank Heyer, he was executed for murdering his wife. And when the trapdoor beneath him was open and his full weight settled into the noose, he was instantly decapitated. Now, on saying that, they kind of believe that the faceless ghost that haunts the prison is him.
Right.
So I felt that was pretty interesting.
Jeez, that's
Yeah,
that's brutal.
yeah, and then of course, they started electrocution in 1951, and they had an electric chair nicknamed Old Sparky, which was originally built by an inmate there, Paul Glenn.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and 9 men were electrocuted in it. And they said the original chair is still on display at the prison.
Could you
And is
imagine
it?
seeing that?
Yeah. Can you? I imagine that would have uh,
Energy
a lot of energy off of it. Yeah. Wouldn't you like to put a EMF detector on it or something?
or a digital voice recorder.
Yes, no doubt.
Also, I'm going to list this on here. There was a place in the prison, I guess it got built later, called the Sugar Shack.
I read about that.
Yeah. It was originally designed as a recreational area for the inmates, but it became utterly lawless and guards stayed away from it. Inmates gambled, brawled, dealt drugs, and did some other extracurricular activities that YouTube doesn't like us to talk about. Just starts with an R word. Um, According to one of the guards in the 1980s, Chuck Gint, he said this room was basically free for all where gambling, fighting, and murder took place. The violence was indescribable, truly the prison's dark heart. Inmates later said the worst assaults and stabbings in Moundville history occurred in the dim recesses of the Sugar Shack. Ugh.
Yeah, that would definitely be a place to investigate if you was there.
Yeah, it's makes you wonder. Like, I wonder if you'd be able to go in there and just sit.
I don't know. I mean, they do tours there and allow a little bit of filming from what I read about it. I don't know what it'd take to get into a place like that.
I don't know. Let's see. Of course, we also talked about. You mentioned that there was 36 homicides, which I thought there would be more than that.
Well, I'm betting though back in the early days there was probably a lot of them that
Reported,
weren't reported. Don't you?
probably.
I mean that's kind of the way it went, with the Brushy Mountain prison that we did.
Mm-hmm.
We figured that there was a lot that wasn't even reported. So I'm sure there was. And then you got some of these famous ghosts in here, like the Shadow Man. Um, he's been seen by countless visitors and paranormal investigators alike. Described as a tall, dark figure with glowing eyes. And I did read where that one popular group was it Ghost Hunters?
Well, I think they've been there in Ghost Adventures too.
Yeah, both of them.
Yeah.
They've all been there, and they actually had some activity.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that says a lot.
Yeah. It's crazy. Oh, here's another kind of a crazy story. One of the officers was killed in 1972. Officer William Quilliams tried to break up a fight and was fatally stabbed by a lifer with a shank. So yeah, there was a lot of bad people there.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was kind of crazy, and one of their one of their famous ghosts is a woman, lady in white.
Yeah, because it was actually a co-prison until women it housed women too until like 1940 something.
Right, right. She was it was a woman that was let's see, I don't know. Uh, it don't really say her name, but they believed it was a woman to be the ghost of one of the inmates after being accused of murdering her own child.
Mm-hmm.
And she was sentenced to life but died under mysterious circumstances soon after reaching the penitentiary. So, you know, I figure someone probably kind of offed her.
Probably. Let's see. And we talked about notorious inmates. Here's one for you. Name of Harry Powers. Also, he was born as Harm Drent. Was better known as the Lonely Hearts Killer. In 1939, Powers lured gullible women through mail order romance ads only to murder them for their money. He slaughtered a widow in Illinois, Esta Ecker, along with her three children, good lord, as well as a Massachusetts woman, Dorothy Lemke, burying the bodies in a quiet Dell garage near Clarksburg. His case was a media circus. Angry mobs gathered at the jail, and his trial had to be held in a local opera house to accommodate the spectators. Convicted of 5 murders, Powers met his fate at Moundsville Gallows on March 18, 1932. He was hanged inside the North Wagon Gate in what the newspaper called the last public hanging in West Virginia. In fact, his execution came just 3 months before the prison stopped allowing general public audiences for hangings.
Gosh.
Yeah. Powers' heinous deeds inspired a novel and classic film, Night of the Hunter, cementing him as one of Moundsville's most notorious residents. The gallows that day did their job, unlike a certain execution a few years later that went horribly awry, which we talked about. And there was a second botched execution with the gallows.
Oh, I didn't catch that one.
Orville Atkins.
Huh.
A kidnapper and murderer scheduled to hang alongside 2 accomplices on March 21st, 1938. Atkins and his partner had abducted a minister for ransom, and though the victim initially survived, he later died from the ordeal. Justice was swift, and all 3 men were sentenced to death together. The first 2 went to the gallows and dropped to their deaths without incident. Then came Atkins' turn in disaster. As Atkins stood on the trap door, the mechanism sprung too early before the noose was secured. The floor yawned, and Atkins plummeted head first on the concrete below, horrifically injuring but not killing him.
Ah,
Yeah.
whew.
Panicked officials, mindful that just a few years earlier another hanging had accidentally decapitated one, which you talked about, quickly hoisted the stunned, broken Atkins onto a stretcher, and in a ghastly scene, they carried him back up the scaffold, fitted the rope back around his neck, and dropped him again, this time finishing the job. Stories say Atkins' anguished spirit still lurks around the North Wagon Gate, the site of the prisoner's execution. Many claim the area is haunted by multiple execution victims, a spectral audience replaying their final moments on the scaffolding.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's,
85 men were hung there. There's got to be some bad energy right in that spot.
oh, no doubt about it. Golly.
Yeah.
That'd be terrible, horrible experience, you know. And people back then used to watch them, you know.
Well, I hate to say it, I think people would watch them today if they'd allow it.
Probably so. Yeah, you're probably right.
People have always been kind of morbid because, I mean, look at the Romans and the Roman Colosseum. You know?
You're right.
I don't think I'd want to watch it, but
No, definitely not. Not my cup of tea.
no, not really. But anyway, we also talked. There was others that not all of the Moundsville villains met official execution. Some were slain by their peers inside the cell blocks. One such figure was William Red Snyder, arguably the penitentiary's most feared inmate by the 1980s. Red Snyder was serving a life term for truly horrific crime. I can't talk today. I'm tired. He had murdered his parents and dismembered their bodies. Inside a prison, he was both respected and reviled. With flaming red hair and unpredictable temper, Snyder had a reputation to have a hand in, or had been reputed to have a hand in several violent incidents. In fact, he was heavily involved in the prison's 1986 riot. During that, in which he stabbed fellow inmate Kent Sly 37 times. Snyder was charged with murder for that riot killing, but before he could be brought to justice, vengeance found him first. In 1992, in the North Hall, the same maximum security wing where he had spilled Sly's blood, Red Snyder was ambushed by other convicts. They attacked him right in front of his cell and stabbed him 37 times in an eye for an eye symmetry that left Snyder dead in a crimson puddle. Red's demise sent a chill through the inmate population. Even the most violent predator quickly became prey in these halls. Since many of the visitors of the North Hall swear they feel the oppressive malevolence near Red Snyder's former cell, some see a fleeting red-haired figure glowering from the corner of that cell.
That's pretty interesting. And you was talking about some of Charles Manson's family.
Yeah.
Leslie Van Houten was a member of was a member of the Charles Manson family. Leslie Van Houten. And then, of course, it really doesn't give a name, but there was another member of the Bonnie and Clyde gang, and of course, you mentioned about Harry Powers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this definitely has some pretty bad history with it.
Yeah, another famous one. I think we even mentioned it was Danny Lehman. Didn't you say him?
Yes.
He's also a possible ghost. that is said to roam the halls. But I believe, let's see, Lehman was stabbed to the eye and killed in the North Hall, allegedly by a member of a rival white supremacist gang.
Yeah, apparently, they had several gangs there. The Avengers, Aryan Brotherhood.
Yeah, he was stabbed by what was later accused to be Red Snyder, who I just talked about, Aryan Brotherhood.
Yeah,
Red,
from what I've read about them, they was pretty violent.
yeah. Legends hold that Lehman, the one-eyed biker, stalks the North Hall in death, an angry shadow that occasionally spotted lurking near the cell where he fell. Whether these are true hauntings or just power of dark memory, one thing is certain: Moundsville blood-soaked history left an army of phantom inmates behind.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people actually did die on that ground?
There ain't no telling. I tell you, you probably never could get a realistic count.
Probably not.
From because as far back, when you start getting back into the late 1800s, I guarantee you they didn't keep a record of half the people that died there.
You're probably right. I mean, it just. I mean, why would they?
Yeah, right.
If you
You
really
know,
think about it.
they back then they really didn't care. They just soon the people die off the face of the earth and never be seen again.
You're probably right on that. I don't know. It's kind of nuts, really.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, it's one prisoner was burned alive in his cell by fellow convicts.
Oh, I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, I had to dig for this. A horrific act noted in historical records. In another case, okay, yeah, it just doesn't tell me much.
Yeah, there was a lot of details that was left out in several stories.
Yeah, but either way, I mean, here's a question: would you go roam in the halls?
That is a good question. I don't know. The place does look creepy, and I think I'd like to give it a shot.
I would too. Oh, and here's a funny thing though. MTV was kicked out of it
Oh yeah, for what?
for drawing Mothman on the wall.
Uh,
Yeah, they were. I don't know what they were doing or what they were even thinking, but they were, according to what I read, they were drawing Mothman on the wall.
wow, that's just crazy.
Yeah. But anyway, we've talked more about a lot of the violent prisoners. There are more ghosts, but here's the thing. I mean, we did mention that it was on an Indian burial ground. That's already trippy as hell. I mean, you don't want to go messing around with Indian burial grounds on top of it.
No, definitely not. I mean, that was pretty. Needless to say, that was pretty sorry of the state for doing that.
A little bit. And the ironic thing is called the Grave Creek Mound on top of it. Grave.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, the mound predates the prison by 2 millennia, which is old. But inside the prison, of course, you also got the ghostly hot spots like the infamous the Sugar Shack, which is that subterranean rec room. Visitors that brave it long enough often report a uh, array of unnerving phenomenon. People hear the sounds of invisible poker game, Faint arguments, hushed whispers echoing from dark corners. Others feel sudden cold drafts, see a quick motion in the periphery of their vision. Like they're still seeing inmates sneaking around. Audio recordings and EVPs have been picked up with voices cursing as well as laughter of a woman, which is especially odd to men's prison. Some speculate it could be the echo of a female staff or nurse who once worked above, or perhaps something more unearthly mimicking a voice.
They got to be talking about the lady in white, don't they?
Possibly. One photographer, Ken Lee, described the Sugar Shack. He's like, I immediately got the creeps down there. This room had a really ominous feel. My headlamp suddenly died and it was pitch dark. That would suck. Equipment often malfunctions in the Sugar Shack. Batteries draining in an instant. Classic sign believers say of spirits siphoning energy to manifest. Then there's the story of the maintenance man ghost tied to the area, because there's another ghost that we didn't mention. Reportedly, a former inmate trustee who worked in maintenance had acted as a snitch, ratting on the prisoner's misdeeds. In the 1920s, he was stabbed to death in a bathroom by inmates fed up with his informing. Now his apparition supposedly prowls the basement halls, still on the lookout for illegal activity. As one account notes, Riley. Tour guides sometimes mention seeing a figure in overalls vanishing around the corner or finding tools mysteriously moved overnight. Which the old maintenance man was R.D. Wall, the one we talked about that got butchered.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird how all that comes full circle when we're really talking about them.
Exactly. And like the faceless man, they say, his facial features is said to be a manifestation of his tragic demise. You know, uh, they see him peering out from prison cells and watching from dark corners. They've even claimed to feel his cold breath on their faces. Can you imagine that?
That'd be, uh, yeah. I'm not into that. Nope.
that would be a good one.
That would be a trip.
Yes, it would.
Then let's see. Far above the Sugar Shack sits the chapel. A small white-walled room used for worship services. Interesting. Some visitors have described the chapel as one of the few places in the prison that feels peaceful or even empty of spiritual activity. However, others have experienced subtle activity, the faint aroma of pipe tobacco. The chaplain's ghost apparently the chaplain was apparently a pipe smoker. Or an organ cord that hangs in the air. During one overnight, a paranormal investigator left a voice recorder on the pulpit and later found it had recorded an unexplained sigh and the words redemption whispered faintly into it.
Wow.
That would be creepy.
Wow, that would be something.
Then there is the hole. Every prison has a hole, solitary confinement. The legendary solitary confinement dungeon beneath the prison, the hole was literally that, a set of tiny dark cells under the prison where light barely penetrated, and prisoners were thrown in for days or weeks of punishment. Many men went mad in the hole. Some are said to have committed suicide there to escape the darkness. With its cramped, oppressive atmosphere. Yeah, that's another thing we didn't talk about. How many people killed themselves there?
It really didn't say anything about that part, or at least I couldn't find anything.
Yeah, I bet there's a bunch of people that killed themselves in this place.
But, I would imagine.
Yeah. Anyway, today the hole gives even the most seasoned ghost hunters the chills. People describe feeling unbearable weight on their chest as soon as they descend into the darkness. On tours, flashlights have been known to flicker and die in the hole as if the darkness itself resists being dispelled. Investigators often attempt to spirit communicate here, given the intense emotions that must have soaked into the walls. EVPs from the hole have picked up what sound like whimpering. Please let me out. A voice growling, "Get back." One overnight journalist who explored the hole noted that the ghost hunting TV crews had encountered unsettling things there and advised them accordingly. Indeed, the television ghost hunters have reportedly cited the hole as a site of malevolent activity. If anywhere in Moundsville might harbor demonic presence, the hole was literally a pit of despair.
Wow. You know, you was talking about suicides.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of did a Google search on that, and it says the prison was notorious for its violence, and the number of documented murders and suicides that totaled nearly 1,000 before it closed in 95.
See, it only said something about 31 homicides, though. So somewhere the number sounds wrong.
Yeah, it does. You're right. I mean, it did say that. Makes you wonder, you know, if these were, uh, you know, how many. Of course, it's saying it was documented. So somewhere along the numbers got off somewhere.
That's what I'm catching, unless there's that many suicides here that absolutely skew the numbers one way. We talked about the Shadow Man, didn't we?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Some think the Shadow Man is, it's a possible theory, that the Shadow Man is a ghost of a guard doing his rounds, perhaps Officer Williams, who is one of the ones that was stabbed to death. Others speculate it's an amalgamation of negative energy, not of a person's ghost, but the residual darkness. A guest screamed that the shadow during one of the ghost tours. A guest screamed that a shadow the size of a giant leaned out of a cell and then disappeared. The rest of the group only caught a flicker, but it was enough to send hearts racing.
Wow, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm. And then here we go. North Hall, the cell block for the most dangerous inmates, is another paranormal nexus. This is where the scene of multiple murders, including Danny Lehman's, Red Snyder's, and countless other fights, people touring the North Hall often experience sudden nausea and panic for no apparent reason. Cameras refuse to focus properly, and the sound of cell doors clanging on their own have been heard echoing down the corridor when no one else is there. In fact, a famous piece of audio from North Hall investigation captured a distinct metallic slam of a cell door. Yet all the doors were securely wedged open at the time. Many believe Red Snyder himself haunts this block. As mentioned, his old cell 20 is a favorite stop for thrill seekers. Some leave a cigarette on the ledge as a trigger object, hoping to entice a spirit. A few have claimed the cigarette smell actually wafts out, or a cigarette is later found on the floor as if swatted away. One tour guide recalled seeing a red-haired apparition in the corner of Red's cell for a split second, just long enough to identify him before it vanished.
Wow.
Yeah. Then there's also another place called the Death House, which I guess that's where the executions happened. In North Wagon Gate. It's insane. Just like there's so much energy here. You know what I mean?
There's got to be. I mean, you know, so much death and violence and everything else. I mean, it definitely has to be a hot spot.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna cover this little tidbit here. We might talk. I'll get in a little bit more of we'll talk a little bit about the Ghost Adventures crew real quick after that. But
Go ahead.
let's see, the Death House area and the North Wagon Gate, where nearly 100 condemned men took their final steps. Although the original execution chamber building was torn down years ago, its site remained on the grounds. Late at night, strange floating lights, nicknamed corpse candles, have been reported there. Some ghost hunters have attempted spirit box sessions at the gallows spot and have recorded unsettling results. One claimed they heard the words, "It broke in my neck."
Wow.
Yeah. The headless ghost of Frank Heyer is also tied to this area, which we talked about. The tale is so popular that some Halloween events feature a headless actor to jump out at guests. But more than one worker has noted that the fake headless man sometimes appears when no actor is in the section. That would. Yeah. Could you
Yeah,
imagine
kinda
that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're there for a Halloween event and you're the actor playing the headless guy, and then the headless guy jumps out and you're not, and it's not you.
Right.
Oh boy.
Wow. That would be crazy. That was a good one. I like that.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So, of course, we also talked, the Ghost Adventure Cruise with Zach Bagans. Spent the night locked down in the prison. They eagerly sought out the Sugar Shack and North Hall spirits, and during their investigation, they caught what they believed to be a full-bodied shadow figure on camera near the chaplain's office. A discovery that left even the bravado-filled Zach Bagans freaked out. I love how it said bravado-filled. They also recorded EVPs of growls and a voice saying, "You'll die," and one of the team members felt a force shove him in the hole. In the episode, Bagans called Moundsville one of the darkest hauntings in West Virginia, which I agree with. It seems like it is.
No doubt.
Then the team from A&E's Paranormal State, which I've actually seen that show a couple of times. It's not that bad. They went there. They're focused on whether a demonic presence lurked in the penitentiary. See, I'm not sure how much I believe in psychic mediums, but I do believe there are demons and stuff out there. I just don't like talking about it.
I don't know. That can go a lot of ways. That's a story for another time.
Exactly. See, there's also like a strange pentagram signal or symbol that was in a cell that this group found. So they were interested in stuff like that. They thought that perhaps some inmates in the Sugar Shack had dabbled in devil worshipping.
Could be possible.
Yeah. Ultimately, the Paranormal State's conclusion that alongside restless human spirits is something malevolent, likely proud Moundsville, possibly drawn by the extreme negativity and suffering from within. And then Travel Channel's Destination Fear did an overnight challenge in the penitentiary. That team, known for camping out alone in haunted places, each took a turn in isolated hotspots like the Sugar Shack or the solitary cells. By morning, they were visibly shaken. Chelsea, one of the investigators, said her night in the hole was the most terrified she had ever been. She heard constant shuffling outside the door, and at one point, a whisper right against her ear. Another member claimed to have seen a silhouette in the doorway of a cell house that should have been empty. Yeah. And of course, they've also had, numerous independent people come out. So, yeah, with nearly 1,000 deaths documented on site. I mean, that's not saying murders or suicides. They're just deaths. Right. Documented on site.
And that's the documented one. So,
what about the undocumented, the unmarked graves?
Exactly.
Oh, I got some goosebumps thinking about that. Because there's probably more than that. But, well, Craig, that's about all I got for it.
That's all I've got. I mean, that's pretty good. Pretty good stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, me and you are wanting to do a paranormal investigation ourselves.
Yeah, there's apparently a haunted cemetery that's near me. Uh, supposed to be some real good stuff. We will find out soon.
Yeah.
We'll keep everybody posted on that. And I'd like to give a shout out to Sean and Crystal of Paranormal Adventures. They do a podcast, and matter of fact, we're fixing to join them on a special Halloween episode where we're going to cover movie monsters, ain't it?
I think so. That's what I was told. Or the
Yeah.
way I understood it anyway.
We're going to cover movie monsters. And I think that'll be kind of an interesting Halloween episode. But keep listening for that. Paranormal Adventures with Sean and Crystal. It's usually on Podbean, Spotify. I can't remember the other ones. But you can catch it on, Podbean for sure and Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you have any stories you'd like to share, you can either contact Sean and Crystal at paranormaladventures2@gmail.com. And what's our email, Rich?
Supernaturalroundtable@gmail.com.
Gotcha. But anyway, we appreciate everybody for giving us the support and listening to our episodes. And thank you. And if you would, continue to like and share and subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, for sure. And stick around for our next episode. I believe is going to be a very famous one, the 8th Canyon attack. I've already started digging into that, and I'm excited for that one for sure.
Well, we always like the cryptid episodes,
especially Bigfoot.
Yes, that's our wheelhouse.
Yeah, I'm also going to give a shout out to Mark and Julie at Spirited Investigations, and
and speaking of them, when we do our paranormal thing, they may join us.
Yeah, might have some other people too. We'll see, but we've got equipment set up and ready for it. So
yeah, and we're planning some big things. So keep watching for it.
Yeah, for sure. But
thank you.
This is the Supernatural Roundtable, signing off for now. From haunted hollers to shadows in the pines, the strange is never too far from home. Until next time, keep your wits about you, and we'll meet again down the road.